Good evening and welcome to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting. We're happy to have you with us tonight. I will call our meeting to order. Let's please have roll call. And if you would please stand with me, Commissioner White is going to deliver our invocation.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day, and please be with us and let us make decisions that are in the best interest for everyone in Pitt County tonight. And we also ask that you be with the students, teachers, and staff as they start back school next Monday. Amen.
Please remain standing. I'm going to invite Ayana Nicholson to the podium to do our pledge. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Ayana Nicholson. I'm currently in the 12th grade at Aidan Griffin High School. I'm also a part of the JROTC program, where my instructor is First Sergeant Melvin and Sergeant Moore. And could you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Seconded.
We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Madam Manager, public addresses to the board.
Yes, it appears we have two signed up to speak. If Bishop Dixon from Holly Hill would come forward.
And Mr. Chair, if I may read the statement.
Yes, sir,
Holly
please.
Pines, I'm sorry, I knew that when we met when you walked in.
Yes.
That's your handwriting.
Good evening.
Briefly,
Hold on one
briefly,
second.
if I may read this.
Okay.
Pitt County welcomes all comments on matters of public concern. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. A total of 30 minutes is set aside for public addresses to the board. Please state your name and address prior to speaking.
I'm Bishop Joe Dixon. My address is 1202 Deuce Drive, Greenville, North Carolina, 27834. My concerns is for our community and neighborhood of Holly Pine, which is just off in Fleming School Road here in Greenville. Over the past year, we've had some new neighbors move in that shoot guns ridiculously, and it's very disturbing. They'll be shooting 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then Sunday evenings, they just have a barrage. Sounds like there's a cannon they've added to their shooting list. We've called 911, the sheriff department, who's been there several times, and they even made the statement to the sheriff department, we're not going to stop until we're made to stop. We're here pleading for your assistance. We have had a good neighborhood there. I've been living there 30 years, and we've got a nice, this is a good amount of the neighbors. We have over 30 homes. We've never had a problem, never, until a year ago when these neighbors moved in and they tore down signs we put up, they tear them down. So we've done what we can in a peaceful way. So we're asking you all for your assistance. And Bishop Tripp is not able to be here, but he sent a letter. And if I can, let me sum this up. Just said, thank you for the time for the residents of Holly Pine subdivision. We have been dealing with the residents over a year at 1217 Deuce Drive. They have been firing guns, rifles, high-powered weapons, and they just have no respect for anyone in the neighborhood. We've got elderlies, we've got children, we even have animals that go in the house when this gun starts. So we ask you all for consideration. I know that there is a noise alliance somewhere. Can that help us? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Linda Robinson.
Greetings again, honorable members of the Pitt County Board of Commission. I am Linda Robinson, Greenville, North Carolina, 27858. When I first stood before you on June 17th, as a voter and citizen, I echoed the June 4th request of educator Linda Smith, Julie George, and citizen Ken Stemming, which all agreed our Grand Sheriff Paula Dance should have been granted the 12% pay increase she requested, which would be equivalent to $20,400. On June 28th, I emailed each of you the voices of 440 voters and citizens of Pitt County via petition, requesting you vote on our request 25% pay increase for Sheriff Dance, approximately $42,500. On July 17th, 2024, I, along with Bishop Rosie O'Neill, Representative Sharon Evans, numerous of sheriff deputies, and a room filled of voters and citizens, in addition to the voices of 762 additional citizens of Pitt County via petition, for a total of 1,220 petitioned, and citizens of 130 in person, totaling 1,332 souls, asking Sheriff Paula Dance be granted the 25% pay increase for an outstanding job performance for the past 5 years. I am here today to ask each member of the board to tell me why you continue to refuse to make a motion, second the motion, and vote on granting Sheriff Dance the 25% pay increase we have requested. With the remaining time allotted for the public session, would you each individually grant me the common courtesy and respectfully answer me today? Why will you not grant Sheriff Paula Dance a special pay increase that has been requested since May 4th, 2024?
Okay, thank you so much.
No one else signed up to speak.
Okay, we'll move on to presentations.
If we can go down front for Employee of the Month. If Sonia Scott would please come forward. Family with you, they're welcome to come as well. And you can stand right on the black dot. Okay, welcome, Husband John. We're glad to have you, and this is just a really special day to be able to honor Sonia Scott as our August Employee of the Month. It's one of the favorite things to do. And we have a certificate of recognition that reads, Employee of the Month, August 2024, presented to Sonia Scott, Social Services, in recognition of your dedication and exemplary service to Pitt County government and the citizens that we serve. And each month when I get these nominations, they're better than the month before. And this one talked about Sonia's approachability, leadership, kindness, supportive service that she provides for every family and employee that she serves in Pitt County government. We are so fortunate to have you on our team, to be serving as a role model for others and continuing to live out our mission and vision by doing exemplary work for this community. So if the chairman would present to you.
Sonia, congratulations on
Thank you.
behalf of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication.
Thank you. And thank you, and with that certificate was $100 direct deposited. Thank you. Every little bit helps.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to items for report, and first up is Bill Hopper with the Pitt Greenville Airport.
I very much appreciate this opportunity to speak before the Board of Commissioners and Chairman Smith. Just want to kind of give you an update. This is our annual report where we provide an update to the airport, and also I will go over some things that I've mentioned in the past as well, just to kind of refresh there. First of all, just Pitt Greenville Airport. We do have 23 full-time employees and 5 part-time employees. Of course, we have our 8 Airport Authority board members. Law enforcement provided by Pitt County Sheriff's Office. And of course, we have the American Airlines connecting hub to Charlotte. Transport, and as far as like in our terminal building, besides American Airlines, we also have Transportation Security Administration. We have 2 rental car companies, in Avis Budget and Enterprise National Alamo, and our restaurant First Class Bistro. And we also have our conference room. And for those that aren't aware, we have a patio that looks right out on the apron that we recently did this last year. Airport operations. Prior to the pandemic, we were sitting about 55,000 employments, which is the number of people that get on an aircraft. And of course, during 2020, when the pandemic was at its height, we were around 19,000 employments. And there was even a 3-month period where we had no flights at all. And then we get into 2021. We had a fairly good year. We started getting some of our frequency back in the number of flights. 2022, we kind of went down a little bit, where we did go down to 2 flights a day, and we're starting to pick back up to the 2021. It's important to note here that when we have 3 flights a day, we're pretty much filling those planes up. And so the capacity is there. It's just a matter of the airlines deciding when's a good time to start going to places like Greenville, North Carolina, and start increasing frequency. This is a picture that tells 1,000 words. This is there's nothing like a good picture. This is for people that that think of just Greenville as just this little airport where we just fly to Charlotte and maybe a couple states around us. And every year I get this from NC State, and this shows you every state that's colored blue is a state where we have had a direct nonstop flight. Now it's not airline, it's any flight. However, this just shows you where people are flying to and from. And you start looking at the farther reaches, those are primarily business travelers, right? People on corporate aircraft that are coming here to do business. And that translates into, into business for the local community, revenue, hopefully growth of economic development. And now we'll get into the economic impact study. I did touch on this last year. This is done every 2 years by North Carolina State University and the Division of Aviation. We're very fortunate that we do get these reports. A lot of states don't get them, but it tells about the economic impact that airports are to the state of North Carolina, and we're going to be having a new one come January. So I'm going to pretty much report on an economic impact study every 2 years, the same one. But every 2 years, I'm going to give you a new one. So next August, when I'm back, I'll be talking about what came out of this year's economic impact. And of course, I'm happy to, once it comes out, happy to talk, discuss with anybody here. But this just kind of shows you we have, $72 billion economic impact, 330,000 jobs, $23 billion in personal income, and $3.7 billion in tax revenue. Aviation is big in North Carolina. I believe North Carolina is somewhere like 3rd or so in the country for aeronautical activity. We have our public airports. There's 72 public airports in the state of North Carolina, 10 commercial service airports where you have scheduled air service, and of course Pitt Greenville being one of those airports. This is just Pitt Greenville itself. We are 1,225 jobs, $84.5 million in personal income, $14 million in state and local taxes, and a total of $267 million economic output to the region. So this is just the eastern North Carolina region that this airport serves. Yes, sir. Yeah, the pandemic had a very big effect on us. It was $321 million economic output. So right now we're trying to pick back up. A big part of what happened here is we had a project from the pandemic that the FAA didn't want to fund it that year, so we didn't have construction activity going on. We also, that was when we had where American even stopped service for 3 months. They asked for our data at the absolute worst time of the pandemic. And that reflects in how what our economic output was shown that year. And I'd like to talk a little bit about, the importance of business diversity. Everybody thinks of the airline, right? We have American Airlines. The airport is more than that. There's corporate aviation. Hangar development is a big thing that we've been doing lately. We're right now getting ready to build our last 2 of 7 hangars. Those are going to be in probably within the next week or so. Those will be occupied, and those were rented out months before they were complete. So there's good demand when it comes to to places to put these jets, and these jets they can translate into like right now we have one that's going to be in value of $22 million, and that's $22 million in property taxes that goes to the local economy. But this just kind of shows you. You'll see that I've kind of split up in 3 ways, and at Pitt Greenville Airport, it's very important to have all these 3 different things kind of show around the same, because that's what it's going to take for this airport to become self-sustaining, is to build up each of these, because one of these alone is definitely not going to do it for the airport. We need all 3 of these to get it. You can see that American Airlines, if you look down on 23, which is this last year, we were about $824,000 of our revenue based corporate, which that's what I refer to as the planes that go in the hangars that are based here. And that was about $1.3 million. And then general aviation, which is the transients, the aircraft that visit here and take on fuel and pay the fees, as well as the smaller general aviation aircraft. This just kind of shows you what we're looking at once the 7 new corporate hangars are completed and we have them all filled. This is the anticipated revenue at that point. And then, of course, we're always looking for an additional airline. We definitely have the capacity. The capacity right now is not meeting the demand, so we definitely have the demand for additional airlines, and we continually work. I mean, we've had some good discussions, and the discussions are getting better. The industry seems to be kind of pulling out a little bit right now, and it's starting to get to airports that are like Pitt Greenville. We also have our future growth. This just shows you some of the properties that we have available. Right now, what we have around the terminal, which is the main area, when we finish these 2 hangars, we've got no place else to construct. So we have to start looking at some of these other areas where we have 2 24-acre parcels that have access to the airfield. And then we have a 90-acre parcel up north of Belvoir Highway that we could use for some sort of industrial development. This just kind of shows you some, just an example of the North 24, the 24 acres up north. Now I'm going to start getting into our air service. This is our catchment area. What you see in yellow with all the zip codes, if everything was equal, like we had the same air service as every other airport around us, and we had all the same destinations and everything, this is the zip codes that we find where Pitt Greenville would be the most convenient place for them to go to get a flight. And this right here is just current connections. This just kind of gives you a visual. This is where American flies one stop from Charlotte, and so it gives you an idea of what, where right now what we cover with just one stop. And then we have a grant that we received back in 2000, and it's for service through a Washington, D.C. hub. And you can see that we added an airline that does provide service through that, and you can see how much the service grows. So, just one airline could make a big difference when it comes to what Pitt Greenville is able to offer. And last, I will introduce John Banks, the chairman of our board, and let him say a few words.
Good evening. Thank y'all for having us tonight. I got a few factoids for you. Tell a little story. I'm gonna read my notes, so beg your pardon. Thanks for the people that came. Commissioner Williams came to our little presentation we did about the airport, how it's run, and different things. And the rest of you are more than welcome. Ms. Ward serves on the board. She knows how it operates. But anybody like to come sometime and see the presentation, how we operate, how we get our grant money, how we spend our money, you're more than welcome to ask Bill to come out there. We'll be glad to show you that presentation. It takes about 45 minutes. The new hangars. We have got a hangar fund due to us saving money and for the county participating years ago when Janice was attorney for the county, helped us formulate a plan to save money to build more hangars. It worked. It came out well. We're building hangars with that money. So the plan, the county was very gracious. It saved us money and gave us the ability to build more hangars, which is important. Last year we had $10 million in grants from the FAA and State Department of Revenue, State DOT Aviation. Pitt County did not have to match any funds for that. The 10% federal match we supplied by the PFCs, passenger facility charges. Every time you buy a ticket, that's a $4.50 charge, and that goes back to the airport to help fund our match for the grant. So we were, like, I guess you say, revenue neutral. We didn't have to spend any money out of our pockets, and the county didn't have to spend any money. So that's a great thing for the airport. The TSA no longer funds our security. They used to give us $20, $18?
Yeah, $22 an hour.
They used to give us $22 an hour for security. They no longer do that. So that's a negative for us. We have to spend quite a bit of money for security at the airport because it's required for the flights. You have to have a law enforcement officer there for the flights, which we do. Bill mentioned the new hangars coming in and the airplanes coming in. $53 million about in new tax revenue between 3 airplanes that should be in there next 30 days. That's a lot of subdivisions. $53 million. We had a clean audit for 22-23. I'd like to publicly thank Terry Mundy. Terry's our vice chair. He spent the last 2 years getting our books where we could understand them. We have so many grants floating here in and out. I'm sure that the county has the same thing with all the grants you get, trying to keep up with them. Terry got it organized. We now can present a financial statement to the county commissioners, and anybody would like to see it. It's perfect. We know where everything is, where it goes, how it's spent. Very easy to understand. Bill played on the airline, 3 flights a day. We used to have 5. When we had 5, we broke even as far as operating costs. Without having 5, we don't get the parking, sell the fuel, and have the other ancillary monies that passengers bring in. So we got to get back up to 5 flights a day. That's our break even for the airport. We're working on it constantly. We're constantly talking to airlines. We're constantly talking to our consultants who get us meetings with airlines. So it's not a week goes by that Bill's not talking to somebody or the board's visiting these conferences to meet the airlines. So we are diligently working, and we keep the county manager informed of our progress. Not great yet, but we're going to get there one day. It's coming. The last 10 years, we built 9 corporate hangars, 20 T hangars. The T hangars are for small general aviation aircraft, but 9 corporate hangars. That's huge for an airport size of Green. And it was not any money taken out of the county or the airport's operating budget to build these. They came through money we'd saved and money that we had got grants from the COVID money for the last 5. I'd like to thank EC Alliance and Pitt County. They work with us constantly trying to find opportunities for the 90 acres and for the other area we have to develop. We get asked all the time, how can we promote the airport? They do a great job of trying to get us industry here and trying to include the airport in those operations. Any questions?
I just have a
Yes,
not
ma'am.
very important question, but how many hangars are out there now? You know, for the longest kind of time, it was just blank. You could see all the way down the runway and everything, and now it's...
We had 20 T hangars built and 9 corporate. We got probably...
We have 20 corporate hangars right now.
Okay.
So we built 9 in the last 10 years, so we've almost doubled the number of corporate hangars.
So we got 20 corporate and 20 general aviation
Yeah,
hangars.
great.
That's great.
That
for the
is
county.
certainly good for us and good for you all. Thank you for working on it.
We work constantly trying to attract more business people here, and also to small people, when I say small people, small airplanes that carry 3 or 4 passengers that are local residents live here, and they want to fly, and they're important to us too. Not only is $1 million jets important, but taking care of the rest of the citizens is also very important. So we have everybody try to serve everybody. Any more questions?
Yeah.
Good. Commissioner Colson?
So if you're having a loss, who picks up the loss?
We had $20 million in COVID money granted to us. We spent $10 million on 5 hangars. We took another $10 million and we filled the gaps in for our shortfall. And that shortfall is $80,000 to $100,000 a month. Within the next 2 years, that money will be gone. So we're constantly trying to fill that gap with new revenue sources and get the airline either to go back to 5 flights a day and or get another airline, because that's the key. That's big revenue for us.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bergen-Williams?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm interested in knowing, as you're trying to recruit another airliner, is it going to be north and south?
We're looking every direction. We try to.
Because that would increase your flights.
Yes,
you know.
ma'am. We're trying to. You have to get what the airline takes you. We have recommendations of the routes our citizens like to go and the airlines like to go on. We talk to them all, and when we get a top 5 airline, you have some of these small airlines that come. We'd rather have a bigger airline to serve more area and carry more people.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Another question, I heard you mention something about an expansion down Belleville Highway,
Yes, ma'am. 90 acres.
90 acres.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of services will be down Belleville Highway?
That 90 acres is already zoned for, I think, light commercial industry. It already has gas, sewer, electricity. It's ready for development. We can't sell the land, but we can lease it long-term up to 50 years at a very good rate. It's close to the industrial parks. We've had interest in it before, but nothing's came through yet. And so we're constantly, we're trying to push that to get jobs in that local area in that 90 acres.
So you don't know exactly what kind of commercial?
No, ma'am,
Okay.
because what happens is, as your manager will tell you this, you get industries come look and they leave and they don't come back. Then you have ones that look and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you got a new plant here. So it's a very dynamic way of doing things, and we really don't know until it gets down to the last things that we're involved and need help from us. But they're constantly promoting that 90 acres. So that neighborhood will hopefully get jobs over there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
Any other commissioner questions? Okay. Bill, John, thank you for coming out.
Thank y'all.
We
Appreciate
appreciate
your
what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, invite Sam up for the monthly financial report.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Commissioners, Manager Gallagher. Tonight I bring you the July 2024 financial report for the general, solid waste, and the EMS funds. We are 1 month into the fiscal year, or 8.3%. For the general fund, we have collected 5.4% of anticipated revenues and spent 7.8% of budgeted expenditures. Solid waste, we have collected 7.3% and spent 9.1%. EMS, we have collected 8.7% and spent 8%. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, it's my recommendation for a motion to approve the monthly financial report as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate your work. Next up is Russell Hill with the tax collection report.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Commissioners, Manager Gallagher. This evening I'll present the July 2024 collection report. The fiscal year combined collection rate through July 31st, 2024 for real and personal property was 6.68%. The combined rate 1 year ago for real and personal property was 10.46%. Pitt County Tax Administration continues to pursue all outstanding taxes using the necessary remedies available through the North Carolina General Statutes. If there are not any questions, it's my recommendation to approve the July 2024 collection report as presented.
I have a question.
Okay,
Yes.
Commissioner?
Our personal property tax was 6.68. And is this 10.468, is that an increase or what is it?
You said the personal property tax?
Yeah, I was looking at what you read. In other words, in plain language, did the taxes go up?
That's the combined rate.
So the combined rate did go up, yes, ma'am, due to the reappraisal. So that additional money went up, it increased over last year. But we still look at the amount of the percentage that we collected from year to year. A lot of those will be paid through escrow account, which a lot of the banks are not going to pay until the end of this month, as they're going to hold that money until the very last moment, but they'll take advantage of the discounts if they have those escrow accounts.
So as an individual, my taxes really didn't go up a whole lot.
I would say it's going to be on an individual basis. It's going to change individually. I would also like to point out that if you're in a municipality, and the county collects it, you have both of those tax bills on that. So the county portion would be, you would need, if they're trying to look at what did the county do, I would say compare your county taxes to what it was last year versus this year. And if you're in the municipality that we collect for, look at what they did. A lot of times, a lot of people just look at it as a whole, even the fire districts and EMS if you're out in the county as well.
Move approval.
Got a motion to approve it here, second?
Second.
Okay, let's vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate you coming up with your report, and I will turn it over to Madam Manager with the manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few items to report this evening. Your next meeting dates, September 16th at 6 p.m. in this room and October 7th at 6 p.m. in this room. Also wanted to remind you that this week we have 2 animal services input sessions to hear from the community, listening sessions. They'll take place Tuesday at 5:30 in the Mark Owens Ag Center Auditorium, and on Thursday the 22nd at 5:30 at the Community Schools and Recreation Building. Also with regard to animal services, as we navigate a transition, we've heard a lot from the community and anticipate hearing more from the community at these public input sessions, as well as an online survey that's on the county website that'll be available through mid-September. And then we are at capacity at the shelter at the same time. And folks are still wanting to bring animals into the shelter, and we're still being very careful about euthanizing only those that are necessary. And so staff has recommended that we do some special adoption events. The first one being on September 14th called Saturday Catter Day, with a special adoption event for cats, followed by another special adoption event in October. And if the board would consider and allow, I would ask, until the population becomes more manageable in the shelter, that you grant me the discretion to discount adoption fees at special events and in special circumstances moving forward.
I move that she's be allowed to do that.
I second it.
We got a motion and a second. Please vote.
Well,
Tom, your thing.
technology here, you know.
Okay.
Have to push a button.
Next is on August 26th, mark your calendars. The time will be determined and you'll receive a formal invitation for the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Sheriff's Administration building. That will be August 26th, 2024. Next is a good news item, our PSAP, which is our Public Safety Answering Point, also known as the 911 Center. Pitt County operates the only PSAP within the county and for the entire county. Had its site assessment by the North Carolina Department of Information Technology, and we received the report back with 0 deficiencies, none whatsoever. And the letter, which will be included in your next weekly packet, says that the assessment team was very impressed with our facility, with the assessment binder. It says it is clear that Pitt County's staff spent a good amount of time preparing in advance for our visit, which made the assessment process much easier. So I am thrilled to report that we had 0 deficiencies, and hats off to the emergency management team for their great work in managing that center. The next item I have is open to any feedback you may have, and this is at the request of Commissioner Ann Floyd-Huggins, who's not at this evening's meeting, but asked me to notify the board that you may have seen that NACO, the National Association of Counties, is urging counties to contact their legislators in support of continued funding for the Affordable Connectivity Program. You may recall the Affordable Connectivity Program is the program that provides funds, $30 per month, to low-income families so that they can afford their internet broadband service. And I just wanted to remind you that on February 7th, we were aware of this shortly after the legislative conference in Washington, D.C., and we did send a letter to every member of our federal delegation on February 7th. And we actually received responses from them as well. We received a response from Tom Tillis's office on February 22nd. We received a response from Greg Murphy's office on March 11th. We received a response also from Don Davis's office. The two responses from Tillis and Murphy, while they acknowledged the value of assuring internet access for all, they expressed their particular concerns with the Affordable Connectivity Program, and shared that those letters were in your weekly packet when they were received, and I'm happy to share them again for anyone who wants a refresher. So I wanted to let you know the National Association of Counties is still advocating for funding for the Affordable Connectivity Program. We have expressed the county's desire. We've received responses. If the board would like me to do anything further, let me know. If not, I feel like we have sufficiently addressed this item.
I agree.
Okay. And then, before we go to the NCAC conference reports, I just wanted to give the board a heads up on something that may or may not be in the news this evening. This afternoon, Pitt County defended its motion to dismiss with regard to the Confederate monument. The judge has taken that decision under advisement, and once a decision is made, the county attorney will be able to present that and answer any questions that the board may have. But given the press presence at that hearing and calls afterwards, I just wanted the board to know you may be hearing about it, and that hearing did happen today. We do not yet have a decision.
Any idea about timing?
Not at this time. And then lastly will be NCACC conference reports. We had Commissioner McClawhorn, Commissioner Huggins, Commissioner Perkins-Williams attend the NCACC conference in Winston-Salem. I know Commissioners McClawhorn and Huggins are not here. Commissioner McClawhorn was our voting delegate, and I just wanted to provide an opportunity if there was anything that Commissioner Perkins-Williams wanted to share.
No, not really.
Okay. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, Madam Manager. We will move on to items for consent. Do I hear a motion to
I so
approve?
moved.
A motion, I hear a second.
Second.
Okay. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Manager, for items for discussion.
Yes, this item was added at the request of Commissioner Perkins-Williams regarding gun violence in populated areas. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Perkins-Williams to share what she would like to discuss. I'd also like to recognize if Lieutenant Wainwright and Lieutenant Lanier are present. They're all with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office. They have been our partners in this endeavor early on and are familiar if there are any questions for the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Dance has asked them to be here with us this evening.
I'd like for the two deputies to come forward. I learned from our attorney that we don't have a gun ordinance, right?
Correct. We have a noise ordinance and a hunting ordinance. We do not have
A
a
noise
firearms
ordinance and a hunting ordinance. And they do not address the issue that we heard tonight from the community.
So, and I'll let the deputy speak to that. The noise ordinance would be enforced by the sheriff's department and would determine what is, I guess I had it pulled up after you spoke with me. It's the creation of any unreasonably loud or disturbing noise. And so it's a very subjective term, but I believe the sheriff will be able to speak to that in more detail. As for the hunting ordinance, that's defined in the ordinance as well. concerning what an individual can and cannot do.
The concern from the community that I received has been ongoing, and with the information that they shared with me on an incident that occurred, and I don't remember exactly which night. I looked for my calendar and I didn't have it in my purse. But when I get a complaint from the community as such, and guns are involved, 911 is what I say. Call 911, and you will get the right people to handle your complaint, especially when it's relating to guns. So it seems as if this community has been plagued with noise from guns or whatever. Do you have something that you have that you can address the problem? Because 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning you're getting a gun shooting, that'll mess up your sleep for the rest of the night, for me. So how can we take care of this problem? Because they have a new residents who insist that they're gonna shoot when they get ready.
All right. Well, thank you for having us come up here and speak. I'm Lieutenant Adam Wainwright, as they've said, with the Sheriff's Office. So the biggest issue with the noise ordinance is the way it's written. And aside from the corner that it can paint us into and trying to enforce that, if someone calls and we arrive there and there's no sound being heard, there's nothing for us to even take a reading for or to address. We can't cite anyone for a violation of a noise ordinance, which is a misdemeanor if it's in the actual ordinance, when there's no evidence of it. You know, someone can call and say they heard someone shooting, but if we get there and don't hear a peep, we can't just go up to the residence they point us to and write someone a citation for that.
Okay, so the noise must be occurring. When can you increase your presence in that neighborhood?
I mean, that's always something we try to do if we get repeated complaints, to increase a presence. And to add to that, to enforce the noise ordinance, we would have to have someone who's willing to allow us to come on their property and take a reading. We can't just stand in a public space and take a reading. We would have to have the complainant cooperate with us and be willing to go to court along with that.
If we have phones nowadays that can record, can you detect what kind of weapon it is if they record the loud noise in the
No, ma'am. We wouldn't be able to take a reading off of that, aside from the fact that you could amplify a sound with a recording device. It may be quiet, but you can amplify the sound and get a false reading.
Okay. There was a complaint a couple of weeks ago, and a young lady evidently was playing in the yard, and the gun started to run off. She's a child, or, young person. And it frightened her to the extent that she started hollering and crying and running away. And then the neighbors came out to check to see what's going on and asked about it. There seemed to be some problem with that. Is there some way that it can be curtailed?
Honestly, the only real options there are right now would be to amend or adopt another ordinance. See if the city's noise ordinance or ban on discharging firearms in the city limits could be enforced, since I think that's within the 1 mile ETJ.
It's in the ETJ.
So if that could be enforced, it's a possibility, or finally the community would have to try to develop covenants or HOA that would be able to address it in that manner.
I think they have an HOA.
Yes, we have.
I think they have an HOA.
Right.
And the sign that I heard him said he was taking down, that's the sign that they have for the HOA. And I think the city police, one of the lieutenants came out, and he looked at it as well. But they are not having a problem. What concerned me is that the residents who is providing is the repeat of the same person. And some residents are even talking about leaving the area. Now, I don't know how they're gonna find a house to live in, because we do have a shortage of homes. And after living in your house for 30, 40 years, it really will become, it's a strain on the residents, taxpayer. So do you have any suggestion for this problem? And I don't think it's the only area that's having it. It's just that these people are just about up to here with it, you know? So what can you offer?
Right, like I said, I mean, you'd have to bring it back and try to amend or maybe enact a new ordinance, but the only thing I would caution you on that is trying to do some sweeping, broad ordinance, because you're trying to address a specific issue in a specific area in a neighborhood, so you can't, it wouldn't hold the same weight to say someone can't shoot on their own property that they own, when they own 20 acres of land, as it would when they live next door to a neighbor. I understand it's, not good neighborly behavior to be disturbing everyone else, but to try to do something countywide might be a little bit far-reaching.
So can the city of Greenville enforce if it's in the ETJ?
In theory,
That's an attorney question.
but yeah, and that's also a, will they do it? I mean,
So I don't believe so. I mean, being put on the spot, I don't believe so. Normally, the ETJ is just for zoning ordinances, and would not apply to a
So
new
if you
noise
can't
ordinance.
discharge a firearm in the city of Greenville, it doesn't apply to the ETJ.
No,
Correct.
it wouldn't. But I have something I'd like to share. North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 14, Article 53C talks about shooting ranges. And it gives guidance as to how they have to be constructed, backstops, yada, 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 in order to be a legally run, I'm going to say, shooting range. Now, here we have this impromptu shooting range. Can we as a county pass an ordinance without people going berserk about their gun rights? Now, I got lots of guns, and I believe people should be able to have their guns for protection. But there is a time and a place where certain things, I think, need to be done that I just can't understand people that think that you can have a neighbor and you can stand between your house and their house and it be 50 feet apart or 75 feet apart and shoot guns. Now, I'm not advocating this happening at that neighborhood, but some years ago when we tried to do something, that was what was happening there. So apparently, if what they're saying is true, and I have no doubt it is, and the guns are being shot at all hours of the night, can't we as a county enforce something that says that if you're going to do that, you have to have you got to build a shooting range that follows the state law?
Can we get a response?
I don't know if that's a legal question or essentially a board question as to whether the board would like to adopt an ordinance as to that. I mean, the board.
I think we need to pressure the legislature
Yes.
to do something that doesn't infringe upon people's rights, but it's just damn common sense. You know, it's just common sense. And it's very inconsiderate for somebody to move into a neighborhood and all of a sudden to think that their rights to make a lot of noise at any time that they want. Well, I would advocate for you neighbors to go out there and all hours of the night take drums and walk through their neighborhood and bang them and stuff like that. Does that really make any sense?
No, it doesn't, but we don't want to escalate the problem.
Well, it
But,
seems to me that
and it's
that
not-
wouldn't be
The houses
escalating.
are not a long ways apart. I've been out there, I call it a heavy impacted area when I mention it to the manager. I call it a heavy impacted area. All of the property in that particular neighborhood has been sold. I mean, there aren't any vacant spaces.
Well, I looked it up and I saw where it is and I see how Staten Road goes, circles around it and stuff, and the various things that are within 2,000 feet of it. Well, I got several rifles that'll shoot 2,000 feet or more, and if they don't have a backstop, and what about the kids that might be playing in that area? What about the kids that might go out there and they're riding their four-wheeler through these areas, and all of a sudden people start to open up with guns? Somebody's going to get hurt
I
someday.
think that's what happened with the young lady one day.
Sound like it.
That caused one of the neighbors next door to come out and say something because she was really petrified.
Commissioner White?
Mr. Gibson, if the HOA has a covenant that puts rules in place for that particular neighborhood, that is enforceable, correct?
Sure, so that would have to be through private action.
Uh-huh.
Not necessarily some county ordinance that would be put in place.
If the president of their HOA or some members of their HOA would like some help in drafting something like that, do we have some staff that could kind of help them draft?
Well, but
some
even if we did,
ordinances?
the thing but covenances aren't worth the weight of the ink on the paper they're put on until they're court enforced. That means somebody's got to go and actually take action to see that it gets enforced. I personally know about this, so.
So are you asking that we add that to our legislative goals, or are you asking can county staff go back and?
I think both. I think it needs to be a two-pronged effort. See what we can do. What can we give to the sheriff's department that gives them more enforcement tools? And I don't know.
Personally, I think it's awful that you live in your home, you pay taxes, you're buying it, and you can't sleep at night. And I think if it's a rental property, and I think that's the person doing the shooting, there should be some action that can be taken so that the people can leave, because the taxpayer is there permanently. The renters are just temporary or migrants for that particular, what you call them. They just.
Do you know for a fact that they are just renters?
They are renters.
All of them?
Just that it's one place.
Oh,
It's just one
One house.
house.
Well, then why didn't the community go to the owner of that property and talk to them? Maybe you've already done that. And said, what can you do?
The owner lives out of town.
Well, so what?
Madam Manager, do you have some past history on?
I can provide, yes, briefly, just to remind the board, for those that were here December 21st, 2020, we heard very similar complaints from the community at that time. This board established a firearms committee. It was established by then Chairwoman Floyd Huggins on December 21st, 2020. It included staff and members of the community, including members from the Sheriff's Office, Pitt County Wildlife Club, retired military, and others. And that group met several times and created a proposed ordinance, a county ordinance, that would regulate recreational shooting within the unincorporated parts of the county. They brought that recommendation back to the board, and on April 19th of 2021, there was such significant public outcry against the ordinance that this board voted unanimously to remove consideration from the agenda. And so I just wanted to remind you of that past, that if you are interested, it is also at that time, at Commissioner Colson's recommendation, we researched what regulations existed across the state locally, and we provided to the board, along with a memo on November 12th of 2020, what all of the other counties at that time in the state were doing Then of the 100 North Carolina counties, 25 had local ordinances regulating the recreational discharge of firearms. And of those 25, 18 had standalone ordinances, and 7 incorporated into their noise ordinance. So the research has already been done, an ordinance has already been drafted and presented to the Board of Commissioners and removed based upon the public outcry. If the board would like us to go down this road again, the work has already been done. I think it would be a different approach this time to look at it as a legislative goal for statewide action. There are state ordinances, state laws that prevent, for example, shooting a firearm into an occupied dwelling. That can be enforced if it's something egregious like that. But for the recreational shooter in their backyard, I'm not aware of, unless the county attorney corrects me, a state law that makes that a crime. And so we can approach it from the state perspective, would be something different than we've done before, if you'd like.
And I know there's gonna be an outcry from, I'm gonna say, the hard right gun advocates, because they're gonna think it's an infringement upon their rights. But by God, I own guns, I shoot guns, I have all my life. When I was 10 years old, my dad taught me how to use a rifle, a little .22. I haven't killed anybody in my life, at least not here. Might have in Vietnam, but not here. And it did not, that ordinance that we proposed, it did not infringe upon their rights. But because of the noise, we backed away from it.
I just think a child should not become fearful of their life, that they are hollering and crying, that the neighbors in the neighborhood are running out to see what they can do. And from this, what happened with me is that one of the men decided to say something, and that's when the comment that was stated in here tonight. Unfortunately, people are not as considerate of others and their welfare is certain things, but I don't know why that legal boards or something can't do something, or the government can't put a new law on in Raleigh. I don't know, but you should be able to sleep in your house and live in your home and play in the yard anytime. You really should. This is why you buy a home, so you can do that. And I like to thank the two of you for coming, and I like to thank the sheriff's office for supplying the response. But I would say to any residents, just keep calling the sheriff every time it happens, and if you can clock when it happens and give them an idea, because he said they got to hear it for themselves. Am I right?
To do anything regarding the noise ordinance, yes, ma'am, they have to be actively doing it and have to have someone cooperating to have us take a reading.
When you have approached them, had any of them been drinking? I'm willing to bet that some or all have.
I had to pull reports, or I tried to pull some reports at one of the first times I went out there last year. I don't recall them being intoxicated, and on the second time, I don't remember either time them being intoxicated or really any out of the way, but they obviously understood
Well, the thing
that
back
they were
in that Janice was talking about, that group, they actually were drunk. They were out there shooting drunk, and it's not a matter of will it happen. It's a case of just when it's going to happen. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Okay.
So all my good gun buddies,
Is there any
I'm
direction
expecting phone calls from you
that you'd like
tonight.
to give staff?
I don't know any directions we can give you to address it, because it seems like a common sense thing. But Tom is the most gunny person on this board that I know about. And
I don't know, Benji might be pretty good.
oh, Benji got some.
Mark might too.
Oh, they might.
I mean, I have a number of guns. I'm not gonna fire them off and wake my
Into-
neighbors up. I mean, a
yeah.
lot of that comes down to
And how
just
about a
common
child out
sense
to
respect.
play and it's in the daytime and
you go to a
she
range.
gets scared?
if you want to do it.
So, we don't know what to do, apparently, but, maybe some of these brains on here and, legal minds and gun owners, at some point, we can come up with it. And are you all the regular deputies that patrol that area?
We're both shift lieutenants, so we don't have an assigned area. I mean, I'm familiar with the area, and obviously we have section deputies
Well,
for that
can you
particular area.
look into it to find out, make a recommendation as to what we can do, maybe? I don't know.
Right, I mean,
We've got to have some kind of legal recourse before we can take any action.
yeah.
Right now, we don't really have that.
And I mean, my opinions are my opinions of my own, so I feel like I'd be speaking a little bit out of turn to start making recommendations
Well,
in
thank
this
you.
setting.
Thank you. I don't want to belay this, but I want the residents to know that I asked you to come so you can hear our discussion. We've done what we can do. Maybe a wise decision may pop up in one of our minds that we can address
Well, I
it.
think they need to reach out to Representative Brown, Senator Smith, so that something's done on the state level that'll come down.
That would certainly help.
I think it would
Absolutely.
too. More than anything we could offer to do. We can do anything.
So this is, can we do that? We can do that as a board, or can we do that? Or do we need to do that? We can do both as a board and do it as a safety of the community.
I'm confused. What are we doing?
Tell the residents to call a meeting.
Oh, yeah, I
with
would
the
definitely reach
board,
out to your
and then support,
senator.
do a backup as our board that we're at all, or not know what can be done and ask them to pursue it.
Well, maybe
And-
we can help them by getting the information to how they can get in touch with. There's some, I think that sometimes people don't because they're not sure what to do, and maybe if they'll call us and let us know that they would like to do that, then we can help tell them how to get in touch.
Well, we could go to their houses and we could start shooting and making a lot of noise, and maybe that would.
Well, that is one thing.
I think you
We'll
said
write
that as a
down.
joke.
It was a joke. It was a joke. But the
But
thing is,
we're
I'll
not
bet you
laughing at
every
that.
one of them would take action and do something if that happened to them.
To think that this governmental agency can't do anything for the welfare of this community, of this subdivision, is really an awe for me, that the law enforcement can't do anything, and we have nothing. If we think of something, you want to say something?
Chairman Smith, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On the behalf of our community and all these neighbors, there were others that couldn't come because of getting off jobs. This could happen tonight, the same scenario, because they don't pick a certain time to shoot. They just do it. And it's very distracting. And they're not here, but there is one couple that lives next door that got into an Escalade a few weeks ago. So the wife had to get between them, and he has guns too. He was about to be Dodge City. She took upon herself, and they're gonna move, and I hate it. I told them, give me time, let me do what I can, get with the officials, somebody to help us before something bad happens. And today, he drives trucks. She's keeping him away from the house till they find another. That's how serious it is. And there's others that couldn't be here. They're gonna want to know, what did the commissioners do? I don't have nothing to say at this point. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We see your concern, and I did put it on so we can discuss it as a board. But as you heard, we really don't know what we can unless something comes up. We're gonna talk to our representatives all around we can talk to the whole kick and caboodle of who represents us in Raleigh.
Janice,
Then
could
maybe
you
they
get
can
all
come
the
up with some-
stuff, the records from back when we did that? And send it out. We've got several new commissioners on here. They did not have any, they don't have any real idea of what that was and so on, and share it with them.
I do, I have that packet of information right
Okay,
here
and
with
then-
all of the research and ordinance.
And then in November, do it again for the new commissioners, because there's gonna be at least 2 new commissioners coming on board.
Cause I don't think you weren't at that
No.
time, were you?
She'll
weren't.
still be here.
So,
And
Beth and I are the lame ducks.
thank you.
Commissioner Perkins Williams, will you reach out to Senator Smith and Representative Brown and make them aware?
Of course.
Okay. That'd be
I
great.
would certainly do that, and, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Deputy Wainwright and
Lanier.
Deputy Lanier for coming and responding. But if you can think of something, could you let us know?
Sure.
And Janice, if I could amend that, because they've already been called, I mean, maybe other
And they
deputies
have
as well.
records.
Give them a packet of it so they can see it, see what was attempted some years ago, because you may or may not be familiar with it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to items for decision, Madam Manager.
Yes, it's been recommended that you nominate Ms. Wanda Williams for another term to the Rivers East Workforce Development Board, to a term expiring June 30th, 2026, and that you appoint Chris Woods to a term to that same board, expiring June 30th, 2026.
Good.
Motion to approve.
So, second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote. And we're down to commissioner comments. I'll start over to my right. Commissioner
No other
Ward?
comments, thank you very much.
None?
None.
Okay, Commissioner Holloman?
No comments, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Colson?
No comments.
Commissioner White?
Just want to say again, how thankful I am for county staff for working on that farmer's market. I know this past weekend was a huge success, and I'm very pleased with how the farmer's market is going.
Thank you. Commissioner Perkins Williams?
Thank you for your patience. Be safe.
Okay, and I'd like to thank staff for all they do each and every day. A lot of hard work that goes on around here. I'll have a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you for coming out.
Are they good meeting?